This happened last summer. I'm Ethan, 34 years old. I thought a week-long camping trip would help me clear my head after my breakup. I wasn't new to camping, so I felt confident. I found a perfect spot deep in the woods. The trees were tall, and there was a small lake that looked like glass. The first couple of days were peaceful. I set up my tent and did some exploring. I enjoyed the quiet. But on the second night, everything changed. I woke up at around 2 in the morning. I heard rustling outside my tent. At first, I thought it was just a raccoon. But then I heard footsteps. They were slow and deliberate. My heart started to race. I convinced myself I was imagining things. In the morning, I stepped outside. That's when I saw the footprints near the campfire. They weren't like any animal tracks I knew. They were too big, too wide. I felt a shiver run down my spine, but I shrugged it off. Maybe another camper had come by. I went about my day, trying to ignore the feeling of being watched. That night, I was on edge. I set up my camera to take pictures of the stars, and I put it safely inside my tent. I fell asleep feeling a bit better. But when I woke up, my camera was gone. I panicked and searched everywhere. I found it a bit away from my tent, pointed toward the woods. I was confused. I hadn't moved it. What was going on? My mind raced with possibilities. Then that night got strange. I sat outside, looking at the stars, when I heard giggling. It sounded like children. But I was alone. It felt wrong. The laughter echoed among the trees. I looked around, but I couldn't see anyone. Then I noticed flickers of light in the distance, like tiny lanterns. I felt frozen. My legs wouldn't move. I don't remember falling asleep, but when I woke up, it was daytime. I felt off. The giggling haunted me. Was I losing it? Or was something out there? I started packing up, ready to leave. But as I was unrolling my sleeping bag, I heard a whisper. "Why are you still here?" I shot around to look into the woods. But there was nothing. Just trees and shadows. I felt my heart pounding. Was someone watching me? I hurried, stuffing everything into my bag. I just wanted to leave. The woods felt alive, but not in a good way. As I got into my car, I glanced back at the woods. I wished I had never come. I discovered things that didn't make sense. I drove away fast, the laughter and the whisper still echoing in my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wanted me to stay. I thought I was safe as I drove away, but the unease lingered. The trees whizzed by, making me feel like I was escaping something I couldn't quite grasp. My hands shook on the steering wheel. I had to get to the nearest town and find some help or at least a distraction. After a 30-minute drive, I pulled into a small gas station. The fluorescent lights flickered, and I welcomed the brightness. I stepped inside, eager to shake off the dread. The clerk looked up from behind the counter. She was a middle-aged woman with tired eyes. "Busy day?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Just the usual folks on their way to the lake," she replied without interest, yawning. I hesitated, then decided to ask. "Any strange happenings in these woods lately?" "I just came from camping there." Her brow furrowed. "Depends on what you mean by strange. You talking about the kids?" "What kids?" My stomach sank. I didn't want to hear about any more children. She leaned in a little. "You know, the ones that disappeared?" Panic surged through me. "Disappeared? What do you mean?" "Years ago, some kids went missing around that area. They were last seen playing outside. Since then, people say they can still hear their laughter." I felt sick. Suddenly, the giggles I'd heard didn't seem like a figment of my imagination. They were somehow connected to real children. A heavy silence filled the air. She continued, some even say they've seen them. In the woods. Little figures, flickering lights. I had felt the flickering lights. I had thought it all was my mind playing tricks. And do you think they're still out there? She shrugged. Who knows? People talk. Maybe it's just a story to scare campers. Or maybe it's not just a story, I finished for her, my voice trembling. I paid for gas and got back in my car. I didn't want to dwell on what I just learned. I started to drive away, but something stopped me. The uneasy feeling crawled back into my mind, something wasn't finished. As I pulled out onto the road, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number lit up the screen, "You shouldn't have left." My heart raced. Who was this? The connection to the woods felt palpable now, like it was stretching out to me. I nearly swerved off the road. I planned to ignore it, but my finger hovered over the screen. I had to know who was behind it. I typed back a simple question, "Who is this?" No response came right away. I drove, glancing back toward the woods. I half expected to see a figure standing there, waving goodbye. Just then, my phone buzzed again. The message read, "You left before it was time." Chills raced down my spine. What did that mean? I felt an overwhelming pull back to those woods, a sense that I hadn't seen or heard the last of whatever was out there. As I turned the car around, I wondered if I was making a grave mistake. But something deep inside urged me on. I had to go back and find out what really happened. The sun was starting to dip below the horizon as I drove back, casting long shadows through the trees. My heart pounded in my chest with every mile I covered, the tension in the air thickening as the woods drew nearer. I parked at the same spot where I'd left earlier, testing my grip on the steering wheel. This was a terrible idea, but I'd made my choice. Stepping out of the car, the first thing that hit me was the smell of earth and leaves, damp from the recent rain. I scanned the darkening forest. Everything felt amplified, every snap of a twig, every rustle in the brush felt like a warning. The car's lights cast a narrow beam, seeming to highlight the twisted branches that loomed overhead. I pulled out my phone, heart racing as I reread the last message. "You left before it was time." What did that mean? I needed answers. But could I find them here? The hairs on my arms stood straight, a reminder of the stories I had just heard. Squaring my shoulders, I stepped onto the worn path I had previously taken. As I ventured deeper into the woods, an unsettling quiet enveloped me. The sounds of nature seemed to fade. No birds sang. No crickets chirped. Only the crunch of my footsteps broke the oppressive silence. Then, a flicker of movement caught my eye. My pulse quickened. I turned my head sharply, but there was nothing. Just the shadows stretching out like tendrils, beckoning and withdrawing. I shook my head, trying to dispel the anxiety creeping in. As I walked on, I stumbled across a small clearing I hadn't noticed before. My breath hitched. In the center was a tattered old swing, swaying gently despite the stillness of the air. I approached cautiously, memories flooding my mind of laughter and carefree days. But this was different, the swing felt wrong, like an echo from another time. Just then, my phone buzzed again. Heart racing, I fished it out from my pocket. Another message. "They wait for you." My throat constricted. Who were they? The laughter I had heard before seemed to echo faintly in my memory, and I could almost feel little hands pushing on the swing. Suddenly, the temperature dropped sharply. I looked around, feeling the presence of something unseen. Had someone really seen those children out here? Were they waiting for me? Panic surged. This was madness. I decided to turn back. But as I stepped away from the swing, I heard it, soft giggles, just beyond the trees. My heart stopped. I turned back, searching through the shadows with wide eyes. Then, out of the corner of my vision, I spotted something. A faint glow flickered, beckoning me toward the underbrush. Despite every instinct warning me to run, I felt a strange compulsion to follow. As I stepped closer, the laughter grew, mixing with what sounded like whispers. I took a shaky breath, crossing the line between fear and curiosity. That's when I saw it, a small figure darting through the trees, pale and luminescent like a wisp of smoke. I blinked, and it vanished. Was this real? Or was I losing my mind? With dread twisting in my stomach, I realized the woods were alive with secrets I wasn't prepared to face. The whispers intensified, urging me on. I might have thought it was a warning, but deep down, I knew it wasn't over. And just like that, the comforting idea of escape faded. The laughter faded, leaving me alone in an eerie silence again. My skin prickled. I took a step back, my feet protesting against the impulse to go deeper. But my curiosity tugged at me, mixing with fear. I needed to know what was happening. Taking a deep breath, I followed the glow. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. The whispers wrapped around me, soft yet urgent. I squeezed the phone in my hand, the brightness from the screen barely cutting through the dark. What am I doing? I murmured to myself, the weight of my decision settling heavy on my chest. As I moved closer, the ground beneath my feet became softer. Fallen leaves and twigs crunched audibly, almost mocking my approach. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw movement again, a flicker of white among the trees. I halted, heart pounding. This time, I had to know what it was. I stepped into the underbrush, carefully avoiding branches that seemed to reach out to snatch me back. With each step, the whispers grew clearer, though their words remained grief-stricken and distorted. The feeling of being watched thickened around me. I paused to catch my breath, trying to ground myself in the moment. That's when I noticed the faint outline of something small perched on a large rock. It glowed, illuminating the area with an unsettling, ghostly light. I edged closer, curious and terrified. The whispers came together, forming a single phrase, "The game is waiting." What game? I whispered into the dark, frustration rising in me. I frowned, squinting to see better. The light shimmered, revealing the object, a delicate-looking doll, worn with age but eerily lifelike. Its glassy eyes seemed to follow me, and my skin crawled. Suddenly, a rush of cold air hit me, and the whispers stopped. A chill ran down my spine. I took a step back, but the doll felt like an anchor, pulling me closer. I could see now how intricate it was, every stitch in its dress, the delicate lace that had frayed but still held a strange allure. My gaze shifted around the clearing. What had once felt like a simple forest now pulsed with an unsettling reality. Shadows darted between the trees. I could almost see figures shifting in and out of the dark, like memories I was never meant to uncover. Panicking, I turned to leave, but the ground felt different. I stumbled, realizing I had stepped onto an old, moss-covered stone path that had blended into the dense undergrowth. Where did this lead? I hesitated, but the thought of those whispers and the doll's pleading eyes urged me on. Ahead, the path forked, and I could hear voices once more childlike and sweet, yet layered with an edge of despair. My heart raced. Should I stay on the path or turn back? Just as I made up my mind, the air crackled, and a figure stepped out from the shadows. Everything inside me screamed to run, but I was frozen. The figure was small, maybe 3 feet tall, with an ethereal glow surrounding it. It tilted its head, studying me intently. Then it spoke. "You're too late." In that moment, I understood. Whatever game was being played, I was now a part of it. And there was no turning back. Chapter 2, The Invitation. I stared at the figure, trying to comprehend what it had just said. My heart hammered in my chest. "What do you mean?" I finally managed to ask, my voice weak and trembling. The figure stepped closer, its eyes shining like tiny lanterns. "You've already chosen. The game has begun," it said, voice sweet yet tainted with something unsettling. I backed away, my instinct screamed to escape, but my feet were glued to the ground. "Chosen what? I didn't choose anything," I protested, feeling foolish as the words escaped my lips. The soft laughter from before echoed again, but this time it felt taunting, like a reminder of the absurdity of my situation. "The rules are simple," the figure continued, its smile widening. "You must play to know the truth. All who come must play." "Play what?" I demanded, voice tightening. My eyes darted around the clearing. The shadows felt thicker now, pressing in on me. I felt trapped on all sides. Before I could steady myself, the figure vanished. I blinked, disoriented, scanning the area for any sign of it. That was when I caught sight of the doll again, still glimmering atop the rock. It beckoned to me, almost inviting. I forced myself to look away, but it felt impossible to ignore. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and the air turned electric. I stumbled back as the whispers returned louder, more urgent. "Join us, join us." The voices tangled together like a chant, and panic surged within me. The path forked again, and I could feel the weight of choice pressing down. One way leaned deeper into the shadows, while the other seemed to glide back toward the safety of the light. My fingers itched to pull out my phone, to call for help, but I couldn't do that without breaking this strange spell that held me captive. With my heart racing, I took a step towards the right fork, but a sudden crash from the shadowed path stopped me. I turned, breath hitching. A group of children appeared, their faces pale and wide-eyed. They were dressed in tattered clothing, and a haunting light surrounded them. "Don't go that way," one of them cried, pointing toward the darkness. "It will take you." Their voices echoed unnaturally, overlapping like a chorus of warnings. I hesitated, feeling their fear seep into me. "What do you mean it will take me?" I asked, my voice trembling. "They never come back," another child whispered, eyes brimming with tears. "You have to play the game, or it won't stop." The gravity of their words gripped me. I didn't want to be trapped here, caught in this twisted version of a game. "How do I stop it?" I shouted, my voice breaking. But then the children fell silent. Their ethereal expressions hardened, and they swayed slightly, as if responding to a cue. I realized too late that I should have been following their warning. That's when the ground shifted again, and the shadows grew arms, grasping at me. I stumbled backward, just as a low growl reverberated around me. "The game doesn't end, it only begins." Fear surged through me. I looked back at the path I'd come from, but it had vanished, swallowed up by a thick fog swirling around my feet. I was trapped. The laughter returned, echoing through the trees, and I knew I needed to decide quickly. "Play or run," the children whispered together, their voices blending into one haunting melody. I stood frozen, knowing the answer was slipping away fast. Suddenly, the fog thickened, twisting everything into darkness. Just before everything went black, I heard a single, chilling sentence: "Welcome to the game." Chapter 3, the first move. When the darkness lifted, I found myself standing in a dimly lit room. It felt cold, the air thick with an unfamiliar weight. I blinked, taking in my surroundings. Walls made of rough-hewn wood loomed around me, and a flickering candle sat in the middle of a table scratched and scarred with age. I shook my head, trying to piece together how I got here. The game? Was this some sort of twisted initiation? Panic clawed at my chest, but I forced myself to breathe. I had to find a way out. A soft rustle caught my attention. My heart raced as I turned to see the doll from the clearing sitting on the table. It appeared unchanged, its glassy eyes gleaming in the candlelight, but something about it felt alive, almost sentient. I hesitated, a knot forming in my stomach. "Welcome, player," a voice echoed, deep and resonant. I felt it reverberate through my bones. I looked around, but didn't see anyone. You must make your first move. My first move? I asked, my voice wavering. I don't even know what this game is. Silence hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Then, the doll shifted slightly. The participants will guide you. Choose wisely, and they may just lead you to the truth or your demise. I swallowed hard. Participants? Who were they? The children? I could feel my resolve faltering, and I fought off the rising urge to scream. Instead, I focused on the doll, unwilling to let fear make my decisions for me. What do you want from me? I demanded, frustration bubbling up. But the doll didn't answer, it only stared back, its smile unsettling in its permanence. The flickering candle sputtered, casting elongated shadows that danced across the walls. My eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of a door or exit. I noticed a faint outline at the far end, a door barely ajar. I moved toward it, every instinct urging me to flee. But as I reached for the handle, a loud bang echoed behind me. I turned to see the table splintering as if something fought to break free from beneath it. My stomach dropped. That's not how this works, the voice boomed again, now louder, more menacing. You can't just run away. I stumbled back as the sound intensified, and the shadows twisted around me. What do you mean? I don't even know the rules. I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. A laughter filled the air, echoing around me. Exactly. That's why you must play. Adrenaline surged, and I turned toward the open door. It felt like the only option left. I pushed through, urgency propelling me forward. Beyond the door was a long hallway, lined with more doors, some ajar, others closed tight. Whispers echoed from within, enticing me, yet each voice felt like a warning. I took a deep breath and stepped into the hall. The moment my foot crossed the threshold, the lights flickered, and the walls began to pulse, closing in on me. Voices spiraled into a cacophony, blending together again. Choose, choose. They shrieked. I didn't know what to do. Every door held a mystery, a potential risk. But suddenly, a vision of the children's terrified faces filled my mind, urging me not to lose hope. I didn't want to stay here, but running wasn't the answer. That's when I saw it. One door at the very end glimmered faintly, as if beckoning me with its promise of escape. I took a step toward it, feeling both hopeful and terrified. But before I could reach it, a figure emerged from the shadows behind me, blocking my path. My heart raced as I recognized the face, pale and twisted. It was one of the children, their eyes now gleaming with mischief. Welcome to the game, they whispered again, a cruel smile spreading across their lips. The weight of their gaze sent chills down my spine. I was running out of time to choose. Chapter 4, The Chosen Door. A knot twisted in my stomach as the child's smile widened, exposing teeth that looked too sharp, too eager. You have to decide, they said again, their voice dripping with false sweetness. Will you join us? Join you? I stammered, trying to regain some control. I don't even know what you want. Follow me or face the consequences, they replied. Without waiting for my answer, the child turned and darted down the hall, a blur of pale skin and dark clothes. My instincts screamed to run the other way, to escape, but that door at the end still glimmered enticingly. I hesitated, weighing my options, when the child glanced back, their eyes sparkling with mischief. Are you scared? They taunted. The games are just beginning. I felt trapped, my choices reduced to following a potential nightmare or risking whatever might lurk behind the other doors. With clenched fists and a racing heart, I took off after them. The hallway felt endless, shadows flickering and shifting as I ran. Each step brought new voices, soft whimpers from one door, laughter from another, and something heavier that thudded like a heartbeat from a third. Each sounded like a warning, and as I passed, I registered fleeting glimpses of shapes moving inside. My stomach churned at the thought of what lay behind those doors. Finally, the child stopped at the door's end, their figure illuminated by the glow spilling from the chosen door. They beckoned me closer. This is where it happens. You have to accept your role in the game. What role? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The child's smile faded slightly, replaced by a knowing look. You'll see. They pushed the door open with a slow creak. The room beyond was painted in stark white light, a bizarre contrast to the dimness I'd just escaped. But before I could step in, the child caught my arm, their touch cold and unsettling. You have to accept what you find in there. Only then can you save the others. Save the others? I echoed, confusion swirling in my mind. Time is running out, the child urged, festering impatience layering their words. You have one chance. With a mix of dread and determination, I nodded. I took a deep breath and stepped through the doorway. My heart raced as the light enveloped me, revealing a room filled with mirrors reflecting distorted versions of myself. Each reflection wore different expressions of fear, anger, and resolute strength. What is this place? I murmured, taking a cautious step forward. Your truth lies here, the child whispered behind me. Face it. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, making my heart stop. The door slammed shut, sealing me within the room, and I stumbled back against one of the mirrors. I could feel its cool surface against my spine, the reflections seeming to warp and twist. Get out! The distorted voices cried from the walls, but my eyes caught sight of something moving in the mirror. There, on the edge of my vision, a dark figure lurked, watching me. I turned sharply, but nothing was there. My breath quickened as I faced the mirrors again. Shadows shifted in their depths, shapes forming and reforming, whispers growing louder. You must confront it. Only then can you escape. Confront what? I shouted, but no one answered. The glass pulsed with an energy that made my skin crawl. A sudden flash of movement caught my eye. Something was reaching through the surface toward me. I stared in horror, frozen as the figure from the mirror began to pull itself out, its face slowly materializing into that of a child. You shouldn't have come here, it said, a twisted grin spreading across its visage. I realized too late that I had made my choice. Now, I had to face the truth within these reflections, whatever that meant. And as the shadows closed in, I couldn't help but wonder what lay behind the final door. Would it provide answers, or was it a trap? I braced myself for whatever was coming. Chapter 5, Unsettling Reflections. The child's face loomed closer, its smile growing wider, revealing jagged teeth that promised no mercy. I instinctively took a step back, but the glass behind me offered no escape. Panic surged through me like a bolt of electricity. There was no way out. Why are you doing this? I shouted, my voice shaky. The figure just laughed, a sound that echoed unnaturally in the confines of the room. You'll understand soon enough. Everyone has their truth. Yours is waiting. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block out the fear clawing at my insides. I had to face something. But what? The whispers around me grew louder, each voice urging me to confront whatever I had hidden away. Was this nightmare a manifestation of my own guilt or fear? I opened my eyes again, scanning the mirrors for answers. My reflections twisted and twirled. In one, my face was streaked with tears, in another, I looked almost unrecognizable, eyes alight with rage. It was like looking through a funhouse of my worst moments, and each reflection seemed to taunt me. Suddenly, one mirror lit up with an intense glow, catching my attention. The child's smile faded as the glowing surface rippled. I stepped toward it, curiosity overriding my fear. Faint images began to surface, memories flashing by like a film reel. I recognized myself playing at the park, laughing with friends who were no longer in my life. The brightness faded, replaced by a darker scene, my father's disappointed face as I failed at something. I touched the glass, desperate to peel back the layers, to understand. "Focus on the truth," the figure urged, its voice echoing mockingly. "You can't hide from it forever." The glow intensified, burning brighter until I was enveloped in its light. For a moment, I felt weightless, free of all the burdens I had carried. Then it dimmed, revealing the stark reality of my own choices. The laughter faded, replaced by echoes of anger and regret. Before I could process it, the child's laughter morphed into something sinister. "They're waiting for you," it hissed. "Do you really want to save them?" In that moment, I understood. The others the child mentioned weren't just innocent bystanders. They were the parts of myself I had neglected: the fear, the sadness, the shame. If I wanted to save any part of me, I had to confront the truth buried deep within. I stepped back, determination pushing through the fog of fear. "I'll face whatever I need to face," I declared, my voice stronger than before. "I'm done hiding." With that, I raised my hand to the mirror again, this time not as a victim but as a seeker. The mirage of the child writhed in protest, but I felt the energy of the glass shift. As I pressed my palm against it, the world around me seemed to pulse and tremble. Then, everything shattered. The reflections exploded into countless shards, and a multitude of voices screamed in unison. I stood at the epicenter, feeling the rush of overwhelming emotions swirl around me. And just like that, I was pulled into the chaos, enveloped in a whirlwind of darkness and light. I focused inward, fighting against the tide. But then a flash caught my eye, and I saw it. A small, folded piece of paper, fluttering in the chaos. A clue? An answer? Before I could reach for it, the world around me exploded. Darkness wrapped itself around me, and I felt myself falling. Then, everything went dark. Chapter 6, Fragments of Light. I woke up gasping, my heart racing. The darkness peeled away like layers of a dream, revealing a dim room filled with shadows. I sat up quickly, disoriented. The mirror was gone, replaced by plain walls. My hands still trembled as I brushed my hair back, trying to put together the pieces of what had just happened. It felt frozen, like I was stuck in a moment that refused to progress. My mind raced in circles. What had I seen? The child, the reflections, the secrets buried inside me. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. I swung my legs over the side of the bed and stood, taking a moment to regain my balance. The room felt unfamiliar. The air was stale, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I turned around, but nothing was there, just the shadows stretching toward me eerily. I couldn't be trapped again, not after everything I just experienced. A flickering light caught my attention, and I moved towards it cautiously. It led me to an open door at the end of the hallway, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. The walls were lined with dusty paintings that seemed to watch me as I passed. Whatever was down there might hold the truth, or more nightmares I had to know. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to escape, to run outside and leave this all behind. But the other part, the stronger part, urged me to face it. Clenching my fists, I stepped forward. As I descended the stairs, a cold draft brushed against my skin, making me shiver. The air grew thicker, heavy with a sense of dread. Each step echoed, amplifying the silence, until I reached the bottom. The sight before me took my breath away. An old storage room stretched out, cluttered with forgotten belongings, sheets, boxes, and tattered books. But what drew my gaze was a lone table at the center, and atop it lay a flickering candle and a small, worn journal. It looked oddly familiar. I approached with caution, my heart pounding loudly in my chest. The journal called to me, enticing yet foreboding. As I brushed my fingers over the cover, a wave of recognition flooded over me. This was my mother's journal. I opened it, the pages crinkling beneath my touch. The handwriting, beautiful yet frantic, filled each page. Memories poured out, moments I had forgotten, moments my mother had shared about her struggles, grief, loss, and the battles she fought with her own demons. Some pages were torn, ink smudged as if she had cried over them. Suddenly, a noise shattered the silence, an unmistakable whisper gliding across the room. I looked around, fear creeping back. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice shaky. That S when I heard it again, clearer this time. It was echoing from the far corner of the storage room. I turned slowly, my eyes straining against the dim light. Shadows flickered and shifted, a form taking shape in the corner. A figure emerged from the darkness, barely visible, but unmistakably human. "I've been waiting for you," it said, its voice soft yet eerie. My heart dropped. I couldn't back away now. I had to confront whatever this was head on. "Who are you?" I whispered, edging closer. "I am the one who knows the truth," it replied, the shadows hanging tightly around it. "And you're ready to find out." With that, the room plunged into darkness, and the fear wrapped itself around me once more. I stood there, paralyzed, engulfed in an unforgiving darkness that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The whisper faded momentarily, and in that silence, I felt an overwhelming pressure close in around me, pushing against my chest, forcing me to confront the truth I'd been shackling deep down. The shadows around the figure grew denser. I squinted, willing my eyes to adjust, when suddenly, a flicker of light illuminated the room. The candle on the table flared back to life, casting a warm glow that pushed against the encroaching night. It revealed the figure, a woman, her features worn but familiar. "Mom?" The word escaped my lips, incredulous, as memories flooded my mind. I saw my mother sitting at the kitchen table, poring over her journal, the light catching the edges of her hair. The warmth of that memory melded with the chill of the present, creating a jarring contrast. "Yes, Ethan." Her voice was soft yet haunting, echoing around the storage room. "I've been waiting for you to find me." My heart raced as clarity washed over me. This moment, this connection, felt like a knot being untied, but the deeper implications twisted tighter, the understanding of why I was here clawing at my consciousness. "Were you?" I hesitated. "Were you the one behind all of this?" She stepped closer, and the shadows morphed into tendrils reaching out, beckoning me. "Not everything is as it seems. There are threads of your past and mine that weave through these woods. You must understand." A loud crash echoed from the corner of the room, jolting me from my fleeting comfort. Flashes of shadowy figures darted around, whispering in a terrible cacophony. "The game isn't over." They yelled in unison, voices overlapping in a blend of laughter and despair. I looked back at my mother, feeling an urgent need to break the growing chaos. "What do you mean?" "Save who?" The question shattered my hesitation, and I found my voice stronger now, more determined. "There are children lost, trapped in the cycle of sorrow," she replied, her eyes filled with a depth that sent dread coursing through my veins. "They are drawn to what was once a place of joy and safety, just like you were." "What do you mean, trapped?" My heart sank deeper. I thought of the children's faces, haunted and pleading. "They want to be saved." A glimmer of sadness crossed her features. "Only by facing your own truths can you help them move on." "But Ethan, the path is fraught with danger. You must decide, are you willing to bear this weight?" "I have to." I shouted back, anger and desperation coiling tightly inside me. "I can't leave them." As if responding to my resolve, the shadows pulsated violently, and the room darkened once again. "Then the price must be paid," my mother whispered before she faded into the darkness. "Mom!" I lunged forward, but there was nothing but silence left in her wake. Panic surged within me, but it was swiftly replaced by an unfamiliar clarity. The game had never been solely about me, it was about confronting the lost, those children of the Whispering Woods. With urgency, I returned to the center of the room and grabbed the journal. Flipping through the pages, I skimmed hastily, searching for clues, for anything that might guide me to the truth and how I could save those trapped souls. A few lines caught my attention, words echoing with resonance. To break the cycle, one must hold the light against the darkness, bringing forth the past to dispel the present. I felt the candle flickering beside me, its light growing brighter as I ruminated. The shards of fear slowly began to crystallize into courage. I looked up, steeling my resolve. I'll confront my past, I declared, my voice steady. I won't let fear dictate my path. The darkness recoiled slightly, shadows wavering in response. The air shimmered, heavy with anticipation. Fueled by my determination to unravel the mystery and set those children free, I focused on the thought of the lost souls, hearing their laughter in my mind, each whisper urging me on. Just then, the room began to shake violently. I braced myself, heart pounding, as the floor cracked open beneath me, a swirling abyss demanding my choice, testing my resolve. I took a deep breath, willing myself to venture deeper into the dark, to shine a light on all the pain hidden within. With one last look at the journal, I stepped forward into the void. I will find you, I called into the darkness, knowing that I had chosen my course. I could sense the whispers growing louder, a haunting symphony of lost memories and laughter intertwining, guiding me forward toward the truth. And, as I sank into the darkness, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. No matter what lay ahead, I finally understood, I had not only chosen to confront my past but to light the way for those who had been forgotten. The game might not be over, but I was ready. The next chapter awaited.